Well, a truss is an arrangement of structural members that is diagonally braced so that you are basically creating a very strong shape with very little material. And so we're taking 2x4s, but because we're moving them diagonally across 18 inches, they might have the strength of a significantly larger piece of wood, but at a fraction of the weight. Basically, the two trussed corners come together and form an extremely rigid corner.
I did that originally on a project we had that they wanted to do all open, big top, just corners, and I didn't want to stand the corners on posts. And the best way to get them strong was to build an angle at the corner, because the angle then had a foot this direction and a foot that direction. And then we ran a cable up through it because it was in Oklahoma where it was going to, so we had to have cables to tie it down, so in case a tornado came along, it wouldn't blow away. And so the idea was to give it long enough legs. So it's a lot harder to rip me loose if I got this holding me down than it is if I'm just a post. You can rip me out pretty easy. So it demonstrates that. And then it carries that rigidity up by using 2x4s up, back and forth, creating a truss and we run a cable through it, through the middle of it, that holds it, goes all the way through one side of the house, all the way through the other side, and comes down to the other truss and anchors down to the footings. It gives the house an incredible integrity, considering you're also nailing the skin on the inside to it, which is 3/4 inch lumber, nailing the skin on the outside to it, which is generally at least a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch siding. And by doing that, virtually you create a wooden crate on the top with a bottom that's also a truss, because of the way we build the bottom. So it's trussed effectively all the way around. And literally my steel trailer bends in the middle. We have a gap sometimes, we've shipped with a gap this wide where the house isn't even touching the trailer, in the middle. And you can still open the door on the side. It doesn't knock it out a level or anything like that. So I just went and decided I'm going to overkill to the point that this baby will take being rolled down the side of a hill practically and still survive. Well, if I might say, a truss basically is the same as if you made a beam. And what we're doing is saying, instead of having a 2x4 here and a 2x4 over here, which we build the truss out of, by taking another two 2x4s and making this web, we create the effect of a 4x16 beam being there, because it's carrying that load back and forth. And so we get a lot more strength out of that beam than we would have gotten out of a couple of 2x4s sandwiched together. So that's how you increase the strength and the durability of that with very little extra wood.
And so, you know, what we're talking about building is a stable box. And so in order to do that, you need diagonal bracing in as many directions as possible. We've already talked about the subfloor being laid at an angle. That means the floor is diagonally braced. The trusses create diagonal bracing in the two directions going this way. So we have 5 sides of a box. And then the only thing we have left is the top, which is where our roof structure goes. And we also then connect loft beams that connect the two longest walls together. And then that essentially creates at least a partial 6th side where we're getting diagonal bracing. So by the time you've got all 6 planes diagonally braced, the thing is very, very rigid, and it's very unlikely that you're gonna have any twisting or surprises when you go to transport.
And we have tested this. I mean, we have put some houses through some extremes, including actually having one where Renee started to lift it up in the air, and as the crane lifted it up, the whole house tilted over and fell all the way to the point of within 4 feet of the ground and caught on the straps for the crane. And they tightened the straps back up and stood it back up again. And the house didn't get twerked out of shape or anything else wrong with it after they were done with it. But that's one of our closest calls to dropping one on the ground. And unfortunately, we didn't have a camera going on when we did it. But it was amazing, each of the tests that these houses have gone through over the years, that they're really designed to sustain a hit more than any other house you can buy.
And I like the cable thing as well. I mean, that's really critical. The idea there is that there's a cable running through all of the main structural elements of the box, so that the box, if it's adequately anchored down into the ground via footings or some sort of auger or something like that, you can create a huge amount of protection from high winds and storms and that sort of thing.